Max was a young boy with a boundless imagination and a love for painting. His small room was a gallery of vibrant colors and creativity, filled with artworks that he had created, showcasing animals, nature scenes, and imaginary creatures he dreamed up. Each day after school, Max would rush home, eagerly grabbing his paintbrushes and colorful palette, ready to bring another idea to life on his canvas. One sunny afternoon, while Max was adding the finishing touches to a painting of a rainbow-colored unicorn, he overheard his parents talking about an art contest. Excitement bubbled within him at the thought of sharing his art with others and perhaps even winning a prize. That night, Max lay awake in bed, contemplating which painting to submit. Although happy with his unicorn painting, he concluded that something truly exceptional would stand out. The following morning, inspiration struck as he glanced out the window. The sky was an endless sea of blue with fluffy clouds floating by like whispers. Below, the vibrant green trees swayed gently in the breeze, and colorful flowers poked their heads through the ground, dancing in harmony. Max knew instantly that he wanted to capture this vibrant display of nature. As the deadline for the contest approached, Max worked tirelessly, mixing shades of blues, greens, and pinks, and soon his masterpiece was complete. His painting depicted a whimsical landscape. A world where the sky gleamed brightly above and flowers laughed alongside singing trees. On the day of the contest, Max carried his precious artwork to the community center, his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. The hall was filled with beautiful art pieces from other young artists, each unique and wonderful. When it was time for the announcements, Max's heart raced. The head judge spoke, and to Max's absolute joy, called out his name as the winner. Max couldn't believe it. His love for painting had not only created wondrous art, but had also shared his vision with the world. As the audience clapped and cheered, Max beamed with pride, knowing that his passion and creativity had touched the hearts of many. From that day on, Max continued to create, always seeking the beauty in the world around him and sharing it through his art. Once upon a time, in the quaint town of Willow Creek, lived a curious young boy named Max. Max was known for his love of adventures and his vivid imagination. On the morning of his 10th birthday, Max was filled with excitement, for he lived in the town's most peculiar house, filled with secrets and old treasures owned by his grandfather. That day, Max's family gathered in the living room to celebrate. His eyes sparkled as he opened presents from his parents and friends. Just as Max thought the surprises were over, his grandfather, a wise old man with twinkling eyes and stories of times long past, handed him a small, wooden box wrapped in blue satin ribbon. "Happy birthday, Max," his grandfather said, handing over the mystery gift. Max's fingers worked eagerly to untie the ribbon and open the box. Inside lay an old, seemingly nondescript paintbrush, the handle worn and the bristles frayed. "A paintbrush?" Max questioned, trying to sound thankful, but slightly confused. His grandfather chuckled warmly. "This is no ordinary brush, Max. This brush has magic in it," he said with a twinkle in his eye. "Use it wisely." Intrigued, Max decided to take the brush to his room, where he set up his art station, complete with colorful paints and an empty canvas waiting for inspiration. With a hopeful breath, Max dipped the brush into his favorite shade of blue and swiped it across the canvas. To his amazement, the stroke shimmered and danced before turning into a delicate and lifelike bluebird, which fluttered right off the canvas and into the room. Max giggled with surprise and glee. The bird chirped around him, playfully tugging at his hair before finding a perch by the window. Excited by the possibilities, Max swirled the brush in more colors. Each stroke birthed a new magical creation. A rainbow unicorn that pranced around his room, golden coins that jingled as they landed in a pile. A mini sun that warmed the room gently. Realizing the responsibility, Max considered the words of his grandfather. This wasn't just a fun gift, it was an adventure, a mysterious gift that brought his imagination to life. Thank you, Grandpa, Max murmured to himself, deciding he would use the magic to bring joy. And so, Max embarked on a new kind of adventure, where every brushstroke was a magical journey waiting to be uncovered, filling his world with wonder and endless possibilities. Once in a quiet little town lived a boy named Max who loved to paint more than anything else in the world. His room was filled with canvases splashed with colors of every shade imaginable. Max had a wild imagination, and he loved to bring his colorful dreams to life through his art. One sunny afternoon, Max sat down with a brand new canvas, ready to create a masterpiece. He picked up his favorite brush and dipped it into the pot of blue paint. As he began to paint, he imagined himself high up in the sky, surrounded by fluffy white clouds and soaring birds. With a steady hand, Max painted the outline of a tiny bird. He added its fur eyes and a curved beak, then delicately brushed in feathers of various shades of blue. As he finished his bird, something unbelievable happened. The painted bird began to twitch, as if waking from a long nap. Max blinked in astonishment as the tiny creature suddenly shook itself free of the canvas and flitted into the air. "Whoa!" Max exclaimed, watching the little bird flap its wings furiously, circling his room in excited loops. It was as real as any bird outside his window. Max's heart leaped with excitement and confusion. He reached out his hand, and to his surprise, the bird perched gently on his finger. Max giggled with joy. "How did you come alive?" he wondered aloud. Just then, the bird tilted its head and tweeted a sweet melody, as if trying to tell him something. Max listened carefully, but no words came. Instead, the bird spread its wings again and flew out an open window, disappearing into the bright blue sky. Max rushed to the window, watching it go. He was sad to see his new friend leave, but delighted by the thought of a living bird, thanks to his own imagination and creativity. He turned back to his painting, a world of possibilities swirling in his mind. That was just the beginning, Max realized. His brush felt like magic now, and he couldn't wait to see what else he could bring to life with just a stroke of paint. He picked up his brush again, dreaming about what his next creation might be. From that day forward, every new painting would be a magical adventure filled with surprises and wonder. Once upon a time in the bustling village of Brushville, there lived a young boy named Max who adored painting. With his paintbrush in hand, he dreamed of wondrous adventures and mystical creatures. His room was filled with all sorts of paintings, from colorful butterflies to majestic dragons. One sunny morning, as Max sat on his little stool near the window, he decided to paint something new. He thought, pondering on an idea. What about a fish? A little fish swimming happily in the ocean. Max picked up his brush dipped in the bluest blue and began to paint scales, fins, and a delighted smile on the fish. He giggled to himself, imagining how happy the fish would be to swim among the coral and seaweed. When he finished, something extraordinary happened. The painted fish wriggled, shimmered, and like a bolt of blue lightning, it leaped off the canvas and into the air. Max blinked in disbelief as the little fish swirled and whirled around him, gliding in midair as if it were underwater.
Wow!
Max gasped, eyes wide with wonder. The fish darted around his head, performed loops, and somersaulted, creating trails of sparkling light behind it. Max couldn't help but laugh and clap his hands in glee. "You're a real magic fish." The little fish seemed to wink at Max, enjoying its newfound freedom as much as the boy enjoyed watching it. Max spent the day playing with his magical friend, guiding it with his brush like a conductor leading an orchestra. But as the sun began to set, the fish became slower, its shimmering light dimming. Max knew that magic, like all fun things, sometimes had to rest. Gently, the fish returned to its place on the canvas, once more just paint, but still ever precious. Max put his brush down and whispered, "Thank you for the magical day." He knew his heart was a little brighter now, filled with fish tales and dreams of other painted possibilities. And in the quiet of the night, there lay a promise of more magic waiting to be awakened by the curious strokes of his brush. Once upon a time, in the colorful land of Whimsical, there lived a young boy named Max. Max had curly hair, bright eyes, and a heart brimming with imagination. One sunny afternoon, as he strolled through his grandmother's garden, Max noticed how the apples on the trees glistened in the warm sun. It sparked an idea in his mind, a big, sparkling idea. What if I painted a tree full of golden apples? Max mused to himself. This was not just any ordinary tree he imagined. It was a magnificent tree with apples that glowed softly like tiny lanterns. The idea was so exciting that Max could barely contain it. Without wasting a moment, Max rushed to his art corner. He gathered his supplies, brushes, a palette, and all his paints, especially the gold and bright yellow shades for his magical apples. His canvas stood large and empty, ready to be transformed into a wonderland. Max began by painting the sturdy trunk and branches of the tree. He used rich, deep browns for the bark and splashes of green for the leaves, making them look lush and vibrant. Then came the best part, the golden apples. One by one, he dabbed his paintbrush into the shimmery gold, and little glowing apples appeared on the branches, each twinkling with a mystical charm. As Max painted, he imagined a world where anyone who stood under the tree could make a wish on the golden apples and have it come true. The idea made his heart flutter, like the wings of a butterfly. Hours flew by, and the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the window. Max stepped back to admire his work. The tree on the canvas was splendid, looking almost as if it could leap out and become real. The apples seemed to twinkle as if touched by real moonlight. Max's grandmother wandered into the room, her eyes widening in delight. "Max, this is beautiful," she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "You've painted more than just a tree with apples. You've put your dreams and hopes onto this canvas." With a proud smile, Max realized that the big idea in his heart had grown into a masterpiece. And who knows? Maybe one day, someone would dream of finding such a magical tree full of glowing golden apples, just as Max had imagined. Once upon a time, in a colorful village nestled between lush green hills, there lived a young boy named Leo. Leo was not just any regular boy, he had a secret talent. He possessed a magic paintbrush. This magic paintbrush could bring whatever he painted to life. One sunny morning, Leo decided to use his gift to spread joy and happiness in his village. As he strolled through the cobbled streets, he saw his friend Mia sitting on the steps of her house, looking very sad. "What's wrong, Mia?" Leo asked, concerned. Mia sighed. "My bike was stolen last night. Now I'll have to walk to school, and it's so far." Leo's eyes twinkled with kindness. "Don't worry, Mia. I have an idea." He pulled out his magic brush and began to paint right there on the ground. In front of Mia's astonished eyes, Leo painted a bright red bicycle with golden handles and silver wheels. As soon as he added the last stroke, the bike sprang to life, shiny and ready to ride. "Thank you, Leo," Mia exclaimed, hopping onto her new bike and pedaling away with glee. Later that day, as Leo was approaching his house, he noticed his mom outside, fretting over a dull, empty flower pot. Her birthday was coming up, and she had hoped to fill it with beautiful flowers. Leo thought for a moment and smiled. He began to paint again, this time creating a vibrant bouquet of colorful flowers, each petal fresher and more fragrant than the last. As soon as he finished, the blooms appeared in the pot, as real as can be. Overjoyed, Leo's mom hugged him tightly. "These are the most beautiful flowers I've ever seen." "Thank you, Leo." Word of Leo's wonderful magic brush spread throughout the village, and soon everyone was cherishing the happiness he painted into their lives. Every day, Leo ventured out with his brush, painting dreams into reality. A kite for Carlos, a new sweater for Grandma, a playful puppy for the orphanage. Through his magical paintings, Leo learned that sharing kindness not only made others happy, but filled his own heart with joy. And so, the little village with its caring boy and his spectacular magic brush became the happiest place in the land. Max was an enthusiastic young artist who loved to paint grand and majestic things. One sunny afternoon, he decided to paint something even more impressive than ever before, a huge, towering castle with dozens of flags and majestic towers reaching up to the fluffy clouds. Max gathered all his paints, brushes, and a large canvas that stretched across his entire backyard. He dipped his brush into the rich blue paint and swirled it onto the canvas. Slowly and carefully, he began to craft the mighty towers. Each stone seemed to shine as if it was real. As he painted, Max's imagination took flight. He added a lush green forest around the castle and a shimmering river that flowed beside it. Birds were flying in the sky, and tiny knights were standing vigil on top of the towers. Max was so absorbed in his work that he didn't realize the structure of his painted castle was starting to look a bit wobbly. The towers were leaning, and one was even starting to look like it was sliding down the canvas. Suddenly, with a loud crash, the imaginary stones seemed to crumble, creating vivid splashes of paint all over the place. The mighty towers Max had painstakingly painted were now melting into a chaotic shower of colors. At first, Max was shocked. His grand castle was crumbling right before his eyes. But then, he stepped back and tilted his head, examining the mess of colors and shapes. A smile crept onto his face. Within the chaos, he saw something even more beautiful, a masterpiece of abstract art. Max spent the next few hours redefining the splashes into new shapes, creating a vibrant explosion of creativity. The once magnificent castle had transformed into a breathtaking painting full of life and energy. Max learned that day that even when things don't go as planned, mistakes can lead to unexpected wonders. And those wonders, he realized, were the true essence of art. With a newfound appreciation and a big splash of bright red paint on his nose, Max grinned at his painting, knowing that in every crumble, there might be a hidden masterpiece. In the whimsical land of Castellum, there was a young and curious sorcerer named Max. Max was known for his bold experiments in magic, often venturing where no other wizard dared. One sunny afternoon, Max stumbled upon an ancient book of spells in the dusty library of his family's cottage. It was tucked away in a forgotten corner, covered in cobwebs and mystery. With excitement tingling in his fingers, Max opened the book and discovered a spell to create grand castles from thin air. "Oh, what fun!" Max exclaimed. Without a second thought, Max dashed out to the wide, empty field behind his home. He waved his wand in elaborate motions, uttering the incantations exactly as inscribed in the ancient tome. Suddenly, the ground shook, and before him rose a magnificent castle, with towers so high they touched the clouds. At first, Max was thrilled. He danced around his creation, admiring the shimmering stone walls and sparkling windows. But then he noticed something troubling. The castle leaned precariously to one side. "Oh no, what have I done?" Max gasped, realizing the danger of his hasty actions. His heart raced as images of the castle crumbling flashed in his mind. Determined to fix his magical mishap, Max remembered what his wise mentor, Master Eldrick, often said: "Quality in magic comes from thoughtful planning, young wizard." With newfound clarity, Max realized that even the greatest spells needed care and precision. Rushing back to his makeshift spell workshop, Max grabbed a special brush, enchanted to alter spells once cast. He hurried to the leaning castle, and with careful strokes and whispered corrections, Max methodically erased and redrew parts of the castle, ensuring each line was true and strong. Once the final towers were adjusted and the last bricks solidified, Max marveled at the now balanced and beautiful masterpiece before him. From that day forward, young Max became known not just for his boldness, but also for his great wisdom as a sorcerer who learned from his mistakes and valued preparation above all. And so, the land of Castellum had a remarkable new addition, Max's mighty castle, which stood as a testament to the power of careful magic. Once upon a time, in the bustling town of Crestville, Max, a lively and imaginative young boy, eagerly awaited his school's grand annual art show. Max loved painting, and his bedroom walls bore witness to his artistic flair, covered with vibrant splashes of color and whimsical designs. But Max had something truly magical in store for this year's art show. Mr. Thompson, the kindly art teacher at Crestville Elementary, announced, "This year, think big. Let your imagination run wild, and share what makes you you." Max decided that he wanted to leave an impression, not only through his creativity, but by making his art come alive. For weeks, Max sketched and brainstormed, keeping his masterpiece a secret even from his best friend Sam. With brushes in hand and colors swirling in his mind, Max finally arrived at the art show morning, a bit nervous but bubbling with excitement. He carefully unfolded a large canvas and set it against the wall. As the crowd gathered and the chatter filled the room, Max stood back and took a deep breath. With one final dash of brilliant blue, his mural was done. It depicted a delightful park scene with birds chirping, a shimmering brook, and trees gently swaying under a sunny sky. But Max's mural was no ordinary painting. As soon as the last stroke was laid, a gentle breeze swept through the room, and one by one, elements of his park scene began to ripple with life. The painted birds hopped out of the picture and fluttered around overhead, singing cheery tunes. The brook babbled as if real water rushed through, and the trees, once flat on canvas, swayed their branches like dancers in a grand waltz. Gasps and exclamations of awe filled the room. Little children giggled in delight, and parents watched in astonishment. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened. "Max, how did you?" He marveled, but words escaped him. Max just grinned. "I imagined it with all my heart, drew it with all my soul, and let it bloom with a bit of magic," he replied playfully, his eyes twinkling. The art show ended with Max's mural as the undeniable highlight, remembered by everyone as the day art truly came to life. And Max, holding tight to his secret of imagination and magic, knew he had shared a piece of his most creative self with the world. Once upon a time, in a charming little village surrounded by lush green hills and bubbling rivers, there lived a boy named Max. Max wasn't an ordinary boy. He had a vivid imagination and a talent for painting that was unlike anyone else's. His small bedroom was filled with canvases, brushes, and vibrant colors that danced in harmony together. Every day after school, Max would sit by his window, gazing at the beautiful world outside, dreaming of ways to capture its essence on paper. He loved the sights and sounds of his village, the melody of the chirping birds, the soft rustle of the leaves in the wind, and the warm golden hue of the setting sun. Yet, Max felt that something was missing in his life. He longed to use his art to touch people's hearts, to bring smiles to their faces, and to make his world more beautiful. One breezy afternoon, Max had an idea. As he watched an elderly couple walk by with gentle smiles and hand in hand, inspiration struck him. He decided then and there to use his art as a gift to the people in his village. Max was going to paint murals that everyone could enjoy, spreading joy and beauty to all who passed by. That night, he barely slept, his mind racing with colors and designs. With the help of his parents, who fully supported his ambitious plan, Max gathered all the paints he had worked so hard to collect. That weekend, he set out to transform the dull gray wall along Main Street into his own canvas. As paint splattered in cheerful blooms and swooshes across the wall, passers-by stopped, watching in awe. Children giggled and pointed, old friends gathered and reminisced, and the whole village began to come alive with talk of young Max's marvelous project. His designs showed a lively world filled with friendly animals, smiling faces, and the natural beauty of the village around them. Over time, Max painted more murals throughout the village, reflecting the stories told by the villagers. His art reflected the stories told by the villagers, legends whispered in the wind, and the dreams of those he loved. Each wall he painted seemed to tell its own story, weaving a beautiful tapestry of life, warmth, and creativity. Soon, visitors started coming from far and wide to see the amazing artworks that adorned the village, bringing with them tales of Max's creativity and kindness. Max had succeeded in his mission, using his heart and talent to paint a world that was truly beautiful. And in doing so, Max learned a valuable lesson that through sharing his art, he could make others happy and fill the world with wonder, one stroke at a time. Thus, the artist's journey had only just begun.